Okay, what are you saying, people, and welcome back to my channel. Now today, like always, I've got another weekly Forex analysis for you guys. So on the screen are the pairs we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you stay to the end of the video because I will be going into depth analysis about what's happened during this week's trading week and potentially what could be happening during next week's trading week. So make sure you stay to the end of the video for all of that. But like I said, guys, let's just get straight into it. First up, we've got Euro USD. Okay, so like usual, we're going to start with Euro USD. So for this pair, as you can see on the daily, quite a nice movement to the upside this week. Overall, was expecting more downside for Euro USD. However, we did fail to break through this key level of support around the 1.17800 mark. As you can see, failed to break through. And also we did break through this trend line here as well, connecting those wicks. So the market for the daily chart on Euro USD is looking a little bit bullish with that momentum there. However, if I do go in the higher time frames, like the weekly time frame here, you can see we are rejecting this key level of resistance here, 1.19 key resistance there, many wicks into this area. We broke through, really nice breakout, and now we just poked our heads into it again, acting as resistance. So the market for Euro USD on the weekly time frame is still bearish here. We're still underneath key resistance, so I am going to be expecting some downside to start the week off for Euro USD. But because of that momentum that we just saw this week for Euro USD on the daily chart, I do think we'll find some support and see some upside later on in the week. So plan of action for Euro USD is to look for some sells early on in the week, looking for some retracement, because we did see the market kind of sell off there a little bit just before the Friday candle close with these two bearish candles. So looking for a bit of retracement back up again, then we'll look to take this market back down. At best, I think we can come all the way back to that support around the 1.17800 mark, but we do have this barrier here of resistance that the market might come into and stall at. So as you can see, nice resistance there again around the 1.18400. so do be aware of that. Take partials, or if the market is reacting to that level and wanting to push on again, you can look to exit the trade there. But for the start of the week for Euro USD, waiting for a bit of retracement to the upside, then we'll look to sell the market back down into this area here. Then if we can get a break all the way back down into that area, but like I said, because of that momentum on the daily, I do expect to see the market find support, maybe form a higher low or something, and see another drive back into the resistance all the way up there. I'm not sure if we can get all the way back up there by the end of the week, but that's what I do expect to see the market heading to. So Euro USD to start the week off, we'll be looking for selling opportunities after a little bit of retracement, take this back down into that barrier there, and if we can get a break, we'll be looking to target these lows here. I don't expect Euro USD to break through this barrier here. We've seen numerous times the market has tried to break through, and numerous times we've seen the market fail to do that. Of course it can do, anything can happen in these markets, but from what we're seeing now, it doesn't look like price will do that. So yeah, looking to see if we can get a nice movement to the downside to start the week off, and if we can find support from around here, look for a higher low formation, and then we'll look to take that back up again for Euro USD back up to 1.19. Next, we're going to take a look at USD JPY. Okay, so next up we've got USD JPY. So for this pair, we actually saw a movement to the downside this week. I was expecting a move to the upside, however, we did fail to break through this resistance here at that area around the 110,600 mark. Failed to break through that and collapsed to the downside. So right now, USD JPY is looking quite bearish, and I do think if that price action does continue, I'm expecting to see the market come back into that support there again, and a break of that support back into this level here. And it just looks like USD JPY is reversing from this bullish trend into potentially a nice bearish trend there on the daily time frame. So as of right now, if I go into the 4H, we are looking quite bearish, so I'm looking for some retracement, and as long as we stay below this resistance here, which is kind of our last lower high in the market, I'm expecting more downside. It'd be great to see the market retrace all the way back up into that area, give us a nice double top, maybe some wicks or something like that, and you can short it all the way back down into the 109,200 mark, and if we can get a break of that all the way down into 108,700. So the market for me is looking really bearish here. We do have some resistance quite early on where we are right now, so we could actually go and reject this area and come all the way back down. But our bias is to the downside for USD JPY. Price action is looking bearish on the higher time frames, and you can see we do have really nice bearish structure here on the 4H. So looking for the market to retrace into here, which it has already done, and then come lower. So we could be looking for shorts quite early on in the week for USD JPY. or if you can break through this area, retest this area up here, and then come down. So either way, as long as we stay below that 110-200 mark, looking for those shorts for JPY, with our first target being this support here, and the second target being this support all the way down there.
And next we've got USD CAD.
Okay, so next up we've got USD CAD. So for this pair, as you can see, we had a really nice movement to the downside this week. Bit of consolidation to start the week off, but we did break to the downside there, which was expected from last week. We were expecting to see a movement to the downside this week. As you can see, a really nice area of resistance here in the market. So support, resistance there as well. Massive wick to the upside last week, pulled all the way back down, closed bearish. So we did have a good indication that this week was going to be bearish as well, and that we're just going to fill the range between that resistance to this support. And as you can see, that's exactly what this weekly candle did. So the market right now is looking quite bearish on the weekly time frame and on the daily time frame. So for this week, just expecting more of the same, more downside this week as well. But first, want to see a bit of retracement before we do look for those selling opportunities. So nice area of support here, which we didn't really have a retest of. So first area of interest will be this area here around the 1.25500 mark. So you can get some nice retracement into here. If we do hold, we'll be looking for sells, or if we do break through this area, we'll be looking for sells up here again to take that back down, which will be just be a better opportunity because the risk reward will be greater. So key area of support we'll be taking it back into. So if you do come up here, reject that area, this will be the target. And same with this area here. If we do break through this resistance, come into this area, we'll look to target this support there as well. So overall, only buying opportunities could look for is to take USD CAD back to the upside from this support. Again, don't want to hold on to USD CAD buys for too long, because the momentum on the weekly, momentum on the daily is pretty much to the downside as well. So trading up against momentum is not always the best idea. So USD CAD, looking for some retracement to start the week off, but then once we do find some retracement into this area around here or that area there, we'll look for short opportunities to take it back down into that same support here.
Up next is Euro GBP. Sorry to interrupt the video, guys, but if you are enjoying the content and you're finding it useful, make sure you go hit the subscribe button down below, and also make sure you drop a like as well. It really does help the channel out. But anyway, back to the video.
And now we're going to take a look at Euro GBP. So for this pair, we had a really nice move into the downside this week, which again was expected from last week. Was expecting to see a move into this support here, but as you can see, the market is really choppy, and we didn't quite make it into that support there, but we did see a nice movement to the downside, which was expected. As you can see, if I draw in this trend line here in the market, just connecting all of these wicks, nice false breakout we had last week. So we were looking for a retest of this trend line and for the market to sell off again, which we did get. Nice retest twice, and then we did sell off to the downside. But overall, Euro GBP is finding a little bit of strength in that support, but for me, the market is still bearish. Still a very choppy market here, so difficult to trade. But the market is still bearish. We are still from those lower lows and lower highs after this just massive false breakout there. So looking for the market to sell off again back into these lows, and as you can see, we're back underneath at a key level of support as well. Really nice support there, 1, 2, 3. Nice false breakout, and now back underneath that same area. So for me, as long as we can stay below this trend line, and as long as we can stay below this resistance, now I'm looking for more selling opportunities for Euro GBP to take it into that support down there around the 0.84800 mark. If we do go and break through this resistance and break through that trend line next week and start holding that as support, then yes, there will be some nice buying opportunities to take that back up again, as a really nice breakout to the upside. But for now, the price action is still choppy, still bearish, still making lower lows and lower highs, and that trend line is still holding. Same with that resistance there. So looking for retracement into that key area there. So if we go in the 4H time frame, you can say we really had a little bit of a reaction there, but not too much to go from. So if you can hold this as a resistance, so maybe see a deeper reaction into that level, reject it from a double top, triple top, something like that, nice wick rejection, we can look for selling opportunities to take it back down into that daily zone all the way down there. So more shorts for next week for Euro GBP from that resistance into this support.
Okay, so up next we've got AUD USD.
Okay, so on my screen now we've got AUD USD. So for this pair, I did say look for more downside this week. Overall for this pair, again, kind of just consolidation really. I did say wait for the break and retest of this support. Really nice area of support here. Looking for the break and retest of that. And as you can see, a couple of weeks ago we did get the break, and finally now we've got the retest there. As you can see, quite a nice aggressive sell-off to the downside. So I'm expecting more downside again this week for AUD/USD, or this up and coming week for AUD/USD, and potentially for these lows to get violated. Here's 0.73 and then push down to the 0.72500 area. So I'm expecting new lows this week for this pair, but first want to see some retracement to the upside and then take it back down again. Again, we do have this really key area of resistance that I will be looking at around the 0.73900 mark. As you can see, resistance all across here was acting as support as well, and will be term resistance there as well. So looking for some retracement back up into that area. Then if we can reject it, get some nice wicks, something like that, then we could look for selling opportunities and take it back down into these lows. And like I said, if we can get a break of these lows here, we can go a lot further, maybe even into the 0.72500 mark. So overall, AUD/USD is still looking bearish. I'm still expecting more downside for this pair. First, want to see that retracement happen, look for those selling opportunities. Not really interested in buying opportunities. Maybe if we do go and break through this barrier here, then I might look for some buying opportunities, but for now we're still firmly below it. Still seeing a lot of bearish momentum get injected back into these markets, so want to stay with that momentum to the downside. So like I said, bit of retracement to the upside first, see if we can get into that level there, and we'll take it back down into these lows.
Now let's take a look at NZD CAD.
So now we're going to move on to NZD CAD. So for this pair, as you can see, we had a quite a nice movement to the downside this week. I did say look for a retest of this trend line here and see what happens there in terms of price action, whether we hold on to this area or break through. As you can see, it does look like we're breaking through this area here for NZD CAD with that daily candle closure there. So overall, I'm expecting more downside for NZD CAD. As you can see, last week we did come into this area here and we had a massive break of that area. However, we did pull back and just gave us a big wick there. So overall, that barrier is still holding, and from that barrier there, as you can see previously, did send us all the way down into that support. So at this moment in time, that is where I'm expecting NZD CAD to head to now. So as long as we stay below this area here, which is kind of like our last lower high of the market, we're going to 4H. You can see this is where we had a massive sell-off, push up from that lower high, massive sell-off again. So overall, looking for that retracement, but bias is still very much to the downside, expecting a test of those lows there. So if you can pull up into this area, that'd be great. Take that back down again, form a nice double top there or something like that, or even if we retrace slightly higher to the upside, retest this area again, the risk will be much greater there. But again, for me, the market is still looking very bearish here. We're also breaking through that trend line, so I'm looking for more downside for NZD CAD back into that daily support all the way down there, and I think potentially we can go a lot further. You can see on the weekly as well, nice wick to the upside and still very bearish closes there on the weekly. So looking for next week's candle to open up and just fill that gap to the downside there from a weekly point of view. So first, waiting for that retracement on the lower time frames, 4H hourly. Like I said, either this barrier here or potentially that barrier there. If you can find resistance, show some nice wick rejections, something like that, and then take this lower back into those lows there. Potentially could see some new lows, but again, not gonna be too aggressive with these positions there. So overall, NZD CAD more downside, looking for retracement to take that back down into the 0.86400 mark.
Next up, we've got GBP NZD.
Okay, so next up we've got pound NZD, and as you can see for this pair, we had a massive movement to the upside this week. Last week we were trading in this area of consolidation. As you can see, we were making these lower highs, so I was expecting to see the market fall over to the downside, but however, as you can see, we broke through that trend line, broke through that resistance, and had that massive movement to the upside. So overall, pound NZD is still looking quite bullish here. It looked like the market has just formed another higher low here, and now it's pushing to the upside. However, if I do go on the weekly time frame, you can see we are pushing into a key level of weekly resistance, massive movement to the downside, and now we just wicked into that same area. So for that reason, I'm going to be expecting some downside to start the week off for pound NZD from that area there. But because the market's still bullish on the daily, I do think that bearish momentum will be short-lived and the market will find some support again to the upside. So looking for some downside to start the week off, and then if you can find some support from the 1.98 area, key level of daily resistance, which will now be acting as daily support, we can look for some buying opportunities to take it back up again to the upside. So short-term selling opportunities I think do look good for pound NZD this week to start the week off. Take it back down, see if you can reject that area a little bit more, come down into this area, then if we do reject that area, form a double bottom, triple bottom, wick rejection, something like that, nice high low formation, then we can look at take that pair back up again into the 2 area. As you can see, pretty much just 2 on the dot pretty much there. So more upside for pound NZD this week, but first want to see the market sell off, form a higher low, then come back up again.
Next, we're going to move on to CAD JPY.
Okay, so next up we've got CAD JPY. So for this pair, we did see a nice movement to the downside this week, which was expected. I was expecting to see the market move a little bit further than this. As you can see, it did reject this support here. Was expecting the market to come into the 86,200 mark, but as you can see, we got to around the 87 and found support and shot to the upside there. So the market is trying to turn bullish here, but we're still very much in a bearish market here for CAD JPY. You can see if I draw this key level out of resistance there, so resistance once, twice was support there, really nice movement to the upside, and now we'll be acting as resistance there again. So for CAD JPY next week, looking for a nice sell-off to the downside. We do have this key level of support here in the market. As you can see, support there, false breakout, false breakout. I think we can get another test of that area, but nonetheless, looking for another move back into this area here, which is probably the more conservative option. So looking for a sell-off into this level here first, and if we can break through this, then we can look to target that 86,200 mark. But as you can see, we have rejected it once, so there is a good chance that the market could come back into this area, reject it, and see some upside from that area. So looking for a push into this level here, but then if we can break through that, then I do think we can go and tackle the 86,200 mark all the way down there. So CAD JPY is still very much in the bearish market, rejecting the key level around the 88 psychological mark. So looking for a movement into their 87 mark, and if you can break through 87, then we can look for 86,200 down there.
Up next is GBP USD.
Okay, so next up we've got pound USD, and as you can see with this pair, we had a massive movement to the upside this week. Really nice bullish momentum there in the charts. I was actually expecting to see a movement to the downside because the market was looking quite bearish last week, so I was expecting just a simple break and retest of this barrier and the continuation to the downside. However, as you can see on Monday, we pretty much broke through that resistance and then just found that momentum there to the upside. So we are looking quite bullish there on the daily. However, if I go on the weekly again, you can see we are rejecting this key level of resistance, this 1.39 barrier, resistance there, resistance there, resistance there, and again resistance there as well. So I'm expecting some downside here to start the week off for the pound USD because of this price action on the weekly, and then because of momentum on the daily. I do expect us to find some momentum later on in the week and then see some upside later on. Similar setup to Euro USD as well. So yeah, going to expect to see some downside for pound USD to start the week off into kind of this area here. As you can see, really key area of support, once, twice, third time, fourth as well. So I'm expecting a movement into this area, but first I want to look for a bit of retracement first, get onto some nice shorts to the downside, and then from there, if you can find some support, double bottom, something like that, we can look for some buying opportunities to take that back up again. So pound USD, looking for selling opportunities to back down into 1.38, really key area of support. And if you can find some support there, see some nice higher low formations, we can look for some buys again to take it back up again. So I'm not sure all of that price action will happen in just 1 week, but that's just my my vision for GBP USD in the next coming days, straight weeks. So for next week, looking for selling opportunities to start the week off to the downside, looking to see if we can get some retracement back into this support here, term resistance, take that back down into 1.38, then from 1.38, looking to see if we can find some support to take it back up again.
And next we're going to see what's happening with GBP CAD.
Okay, so up next we've got pound CAD. So as you can see for this pair, a massive movement to the upside this week. I was expecting more downside for pound CAD to start the week off. The market was looking quite bearish. However, as you can see, we failed to sustain that area of resistance, broke through that, and had a massive movement to the upside. We did retrace kind of the whole bullish movement that we had, but we did see that massive movement to the upside happen. You see on the weekly time frame, we are still rejecting this resistance here. We're seeing some nice wicks. So overall, my bias from a higher time frame point of view is still to the downside. So I do still expect to see more downside for pound CAD, but because of that massive movement that we had to the upside this week, I do expect to see a little bit more upside again happen as well. We're coming into a really nice area of support. So I think for pound CAD, looking for a push to the upside, looking for a formation of a lower high, and then look to take that back down again. I still think pound CAD can see a push back into these lows down here. But first, I think we'll see a movement to the upside first. As you can see, this price action to the downside is a little bit choppy, so I do expect to see a push up again, form another lower high. We are in a nice area of support. As you can see, we'll be turned support as well again now. So looking for a push up again, form another lower high, double top, something like that, showing us that we're failing to push on and that the bears are starting to take control. And then we can look for a big sell off to the downside all the way back down to these lows. Again, won't be looking to target all the way down there in one trade. Probably look for another push back into this zone, maybe another push back into this zone and that zone. So take partials as we do go to the downside there, because we could find support from any one of these areas and push back up again. But you can see on the weekly time frame, we've got nice wicks to the upside. If you go on the weekly again, you can see 1, 2, 3 wicks there. The market is definitely rejecting that resistance there. So naturally do expect to see the market move in the opposite direction to the downside. But first, like I said, because of that momentum that we saw on the daily and the choppy bearish price action we're seeing now, I want to see one more push to the upside, form another lower high, and then look to take this back down again. We do have a little bit of a trend line here as well. If I do connect those wicks there, so that wick there, those wicks there, form another lower high from around there, then we can look to sell it off. And I think overall target for pound CAD will be back down at around the 1.72 area.
Okay, up next we've got GBP JPY.
And next up, we're going to take a look at pound JPY. So for this pair, as you can see, we're back at a really key level of resistance here in the market, around the 153 area. As you can see, really nice resistance, nice sell off there, and was acting as resistance there again, and will be acting as resistance there again. As you can see, those wicks there, 1, 2, 3. So overall, pound JPY is still bearish for me. It did break through this trend line here in the market. As you can see, just connecting those wicks there, it did break through. So it is showing us signs that potentially the market might want to turn bullish in the near future. But right now, the market is still bearish. Key levels are still intact, so I'm going to be expecting more downside. Again, not expecting to see the market come all the way down to these lows. It could do that, but I won't be calling that just yet. I do think, however, right now we can be on for a move back down to 151, a key area of support here in the market. Nice move to the upside. I do think we can come back down, retest this, and then from there we might see some upside back up into that zone. Or if we do break through 151, then I can see the market pushing back into these lows down there around the 149,500 mark. So a break of that zone will probably take us into these lows here. So a lot will need to happen for us to push back into those lows now, but because we are rejecting that key level, I know previously we can see some nice momentum to the downside from those levels as well. And because the market is still bearish, I do see that push happening. So right now, as you can see for JPY, we did already have a little bit of a reaction towards the end of the week there. So if I probably draw this trend line in here, if you can see a push back into this trend line, that would be great. Take it back down, or a push back into this resistance here, that would be great as well. Take it back down, nice false break of the trend line, come back in again, that would be great. So that's kind of the opportunity that I will be looking for pound JPY for next week. A push back up again, form a nice lower high, either that trend line or a double top of that resistance, then we'll take it down all the way back down to 151. Now, like I said, if you can get a break of that, we can push back down into 149,500, although I'm not really seeing that play out too much just because of all of this bullish momentum that we've seen here. I'm not sure if the market will come all the way down to those lows. It could do that, but I'm not seeing that just yet. Probably need a little bit more development in the price action, but I can see the market sell off back down into this 151 spot. And from there, if we do hold as support, could be some really nice buys on the lower time frames to take it back up into that zone all the way up there.
And up next, we're going to take a look at gold.
And next up, we've got gold. So as you can see for gold, we had a quite nice movement to the upside this week. Quite a nice break of this trend line that I was looking to sell from. However, as you can see, we did not quite come into the trend line there. We kind of missed it by a few pips, sold off to the downside a few times before essentially we did fail to break through this key support and had a massive movement to the upside there. So in my opinion, gold is looking quite bullish. We did see quite an aggressive sell-off just before the market closed, but overall, gold is looking quite bullish here on the higher time frames. We're back above this key level of 1810. As you can see, 1810 here gave us this massive movement to the upside all the way up to 1900. So I think if we can stay above this from a daily point of view, so yes, we can dip below 4-hour hourly, but as long as the daily stays above this, so we don't see a daily close below this area, I think this could be a really nice area to look for some nice buying opportunities to take that again to the upside, back up to this key level around there, kind of the 1850 stroke 1860 area. You can see on the 4H, really nice area of supply, which we kind of just fell to the downside very, very aggressively there. So I do think the market can fill that gap to the upside. Of course, we do have this resistance here, so that will be the first area. Look at the target. Which we could come back into that same area, reject it, and come straight back down again. So that will be the first target there. But then if we can break through that break and retest option, or if you do have a nice pullback, can look to target at 1850 or 1860 level all the way up there. So more buying opportunities next week for gold as long as we stay above 1810. If we start to dip back below, this could just be a massive false break. Then we could be seeing some more downside from that area there next week. But for me, as long as we stay above 1810, hold that as support, we'll be looking for buying opportunities to take it back into that resistance and then back up to that zone all the way up at 1850.
And last but not least, we've got Bitcoin.
And finally, we've got Bitcoin. So as you can see for Bitcoin, a massive movement to the upside that we've had this week. Overall, the market is looking quite bullish now for Bitcoin here on the daily time frame. Had many consecutive candles of bullish days there. So right now, as you can see, I did say if we do break through this barrier here, I do expect to see the market push back into the 40,000 mark. And as you can see, we've hit that and we've actually gone past that a little bit. So Bitcoin looking quite bullish there, but on the higher time frames, the weekly, the monthly, Bitcoin is still looking a little bit bearish, and I still do see more downside for this pair. We do have this key level here of support and also this support just above us right here. So I think we'll probably see some more continuation to the upside into these zones, so the 44,000 mark. Then from here we might start to sell off again, or potentially push into their 48,000 mark and then sell off again from there. So that is what I'm expecting for Bitcoin. So more upside into these key levels, and again monitor price action from there. Then we could be seeing some really nice selling opportunities. Or if you do break into the 48,000 mark, as you can see, price support, massive movement to the upside, push all the way back down. This will be the first retest of that as resistance. So either of these two levels here, but from these two levels, I do expect to see the market come right back down again for Bitcoin and see another bigger push to the downside. So overall for Bitcoin, we are looking bullish here. We're not quite at the level of resistance that I'm looking at for the market to come into. So a little bit more upside this week for Bitcoin back into the 44,000 mark. Then from there selling off, or if we do break from there, break through that barrier, and then push into the 48,000 mark, then from there I do expect to see the market sell off again. So overall the market is bullish, a bit more upside than from these two zones. I do expect to see the market turn around and turn bearish again.
Right guys, so that is the end of the video, and I hope all of you guys enjoyed it, found it useful. And like always guys, if you have any questions, agree or disagree with my analysis, drop a comment down below and I'll make sure I'll get back to you guys. If you did enjoy the content, hit the subscribe button. I do weekly analysis videos every single week, so make sure you're there and don't miss out on the content. And if you did enjoy it, hit the like button. It does really help the channel out, and I do really appreciate it. But like always guys, I'll catch you guys later.